Russell just published our 8th annual survey of asset owners on sustainable investment. Now, 8 years running, we can find some interesting trends now, but the main headline is that asset owners are feeling positive about the impact of sustainability regulation, improvements in data quality, and also increasingly adoptive passive implementation strategies for sustainable investment. Now, the regulatory sentiment that we found, I think, was particularly interesting, that asset owners were positive. About 90% said that they felt the impact of sustainable investment regulation helped them in implementing and achieving their sustainable investment goals. I think that relates to the data point where for the last 4 years, lack of data and consistent quality data were cited as the top barriers to sustainable investment implementation. This year, those issues were replaced for the first time since 2021 by concerns around methodologies and resourcing. So that tells me that asset owners are focused on implementation and are comfortable, or at least have a sufficient level of comfort to get going with the data that we have. And finally, on passive, for the first time since we've been asking this question, we saw a higher rate of asset owner respondents saying they're implementing via passive than active. Now, both still very common, over 60% of each of respondents said they're following active and passive strategies. But a few years ago, this was about an 80 to 50% split towards active, so definitely a shift towards passive. Climate Week here is all about the climate transition. We've certainly seen that as well in that asset owner survey that FTSE Russell just published. 90% of asset owners said climate risk is an investment risk. So when we think about where investors are acting and what the future holds for climate transition investing, we're seeing a concentration on implementing strategies across the portfolio that focus on climate transition, particularly at scale. And by scale, for a lot of asset owners, that requires a passive and index-based strategies for climate transition, because there's vast pools of capital for global asset owners that sit within passive segments of their asset allocation. So in order to achieve total portfolio climate transition alignment, you need to integrate that into passive. So we've seen rapid growth in demand for climate transition benchmarks, and FTSE Russell's partnered with the Transition Pathway Initiative, or TPI, to help measure and inform how we're going to be assessing companies' transition readiness. When you combine that with forward-looking data around climate governance, scenario alignment, and also solutions in the climate space, you can build indexes that are meant to replicate and ultimately kind of replace the traditional market cap weighted indexes that's the current repository for billions of dollars in assets in a lot of asset owner core equity allocations and fixed income as well. So what we're seeing is adoption of those indexes that need to maintain a risk return characteristic similar to the market cap weighted index, with improvements across the climate metrics we're focused on, and as we've seen in a lot of the developed market and US market portfolios, some outperformance over the back histories that we've tested. Sustainable Investment Forum North America has been around for a number of years and a key feature of New York Climate Week. I think it's an excellent place to bring thought leaders and collaborators together to learn from each other. And New York is the context, but it's truly a global conversation. And that's what's so unique about it. Operating alongside the UN conversations on climate change, this is an opportunity for the investment and finance community to get together, not just talk about what we've accomplished so far, but really focus on what the future holds, and that's what's exciting.